Good morning. Welcome to Ask Coffee Online. My name is Chef Tiz. Today I'm going to make for you a shrimp bisque. A shrimp bisque is from a French origin. It's a very rich, creamy, full flavor soup, and it's done with crustacean broth. It could be lobster, shrimp, or crab. Today I'm doing the shrimp a bisque, and I already got my broth that I made last night ahead of time. And you know what I use for this? Some shrimp heads. If you guys ever get some shrimp with the heads on and you don't know what to do with the heads, well, you make a broth, and I'm gonna pretty much show you how to start the process. But again, also you can find this, make it with fruits, vegetables, or even mushrooms. So it's not only done with shellfish, but you can also, like I said, do with the different fruits and vegetables, like a tomato bisque or some mushrooms, like wild mushrooms as well. So let's start by making our bisque here. I got some clarified butter here. I'm gonna put on my pan here. I wanna brown my mirepoix. And feel free to ask questions along the way. I like when you guys ask questions, so remember that. You can just talk into your microphone, your computer. I can hear you over here. There's a speaker in the room that we can hear you, so you don't have to type it in. And again, you wanna, when you make the stock, I made the stock ahead of time, this morning, and you wanna really reduce it by half. And you start making the stock pretty much the same way as I'm gonna start doing this. I'm making like a double stock. I got more shrimp shells here. I'm gonna make it really rich and flavorful. So this is what you wanna do, okay?
Why do you use the clarified butter over traditional butter?
Well, because you don't want to burn the butter in case if you have like whole butter, if you're not careful, it can burn, and then you're gonna have this burn like milk taste, and you don't want that. When you burn dairy, it doesn't taste that well. So that's the reason why. So I got some. I also got some. Couple 2 cloves of garlic, split in half, put them in there. And keep in mind, with this bisque, you can also thicken this with some rice. Today I'm gonna make a roux, but if I had more time, I would put some rice in here, let it cook until it gets soft, and then I would puree that. It's gonna be nice, and the starches in the rice would like thicken the bisque. But today I'm gonna use some roux today. I'm going to be making some roux over here. So, but you can also use rice if you want. Over here I got some my bouquet garni. I got some fresh thyme and some tarragon. This I'm going to make put her in there as well, so to give some more flavor. You don't want to use like really strong herbs like rosemary. You want to maybe use some parsley stems as well. But try to get away from like oregano and really strong herbs like rosemary. Like I said, it's going to give you too much of a strong flavor to your bisque. You don't want that. This should be very, it's a very flavorful bisque, but you don't want to add too much of other flavors like, really strong herbs, for example. We're sauteing our mirepoix with our shrimp shells and some shrimp bisque I got here. We'll let it go for about 5 minutes. Now I'm going to add some tomato paste. Couple tablespoons here. Okay. We want to combine it really good with the mirepoix, the shrimp shells there. This is going to give a nice color to your bisque. And you will start doing the same thing. If you're making a broth, you will like saute the shells with the mirepoix and then some tomato paste, and then you will add some cold water to this. But since I already have my broth, this is going to be just...
Chef, you have the shells in there?
Pardon me?
I missed the video because of all the messing up and everything. You have the shells and the...
Yes, I do. I'm sauteing the mirepoix, the shells, and some shrimp pieces that I found in my freezer too. So you can also add some, like I made a stock this morning with some shrimp heads. So if you ever buy some shrimp with the heads on, if you don't know what to do with the heads, take them off and save them, and you can make a really nice stock, okay?
Okay, thank you, Chef.
Okay, now I'm gonna put some, I got some brandy here. Okay. There you go. I'm gonna flambé there to kind of, you know, get rid of the alcohol in there. All right, break it just pop. Okay. I'm also gonna add some dry sherry. You guys can find some cream sherry sweeter, but dry sherry is gonna work as well too. There we go. This is gonna give a nice sweet flavor to your bisque. Put this to the side over here. Okay. Now we're gonna reduce this a little bit. Okay, now I got my shrimp broth over here. I'm gonna add to my shells and my mirepoix. Okay, now we're gonna let it come to a simmer. Okay. And you want to add the stock cold to this shells. You want to bring out the flavor. Otherwise, put it hot. The proteins the shells shrink, and you won't be able to bring all the flavors out. So anytime you're doing something like this, like you're making a chicken stock, you always use cold water to start your stocks. Okay. So we're going to let it come to a simmer before we start to thicken this. In the meantime, I want to make my my roux here. I got some butter, and anytime you guys making a roux, the rule is you want to. Also, I'm going to put my bouquet garni here. Going back to my roux here, I was saying, anytime you guys make a roux, the rule is you want to measure equal parts flour to butter by weight, okay? Not by measuring cups, by weight, okay? I'm gonna have to change my somehow the breakers kind of pop, so I need to put in a different one. Let's see. I can try this one over here.
Chef, would you, when you're making the roux, do you suggest always doing that by weight?
Yes, always by weight, yes. You want if you have like 8 ounces of butter, you want to also measure 8 ounces of flour.
Why, Chef?
But otherwise, if you might end up with too much butter or too much flour. So, as you know, 1 cup of flour, it doesn't weigh 8 ounces. It's only 4.5 ounces. You always want to whisk the flour in there to break down any little lumps. And you want to cook this for about 6 or 7 minutes. You don't want to have any raw flour taste in the roux. And you can tell once about 7 minutes or so, you want to make a blonde roux. You don't want to brown it too much either.
So, Chef, on the roux that you're making, is it going to be like a blonde roux or?
Yeah, it's going to be a blonde roux, yes. Yes, a blonde roux.
Can you talk us through how you made the shrimp stock?
Okay, to make the shrimp stock, you pretty much start the same way as I began doing this bisque right now. You start with your shrimp shells, your mirepoix, your tomato paste. So you're gonna brown the mirepoix first with some butter. Then you're gonna add the shrimp shells to that. You wanna cook them for a few minutes. Then you wanna add tomato paste. You can also use some white wine. If you don't have brandy at home to make the broth, use some white wine to deglaze the pan. And then you put the cold water with some, also you wanna use some herbs like fresh thyme, maybe some parsley stems as well. I'm using some tarragon today too. And then you let it simmer. You want to reduce it by half. You want to have a really nice and concentrated broth to have a lot of flavor. And I have about 2 gallons of liquid when I add it to the pot. And then let it reduce until it was like half of that.
Can you freeze the bisque?
Once you put the cream, you don't want to freeze it because it might separate, but you can freeze the stock before you add the cream, before it's finished. Yes, you can freeze, like this, but before adding the cream, you can freeze it and then take it out as you need it. But once you put the cream, sometimes if you freeze it, it's gonna separate.
Chef, how long are you simmering that stock before you use it?
Right now, since I already, it's very soft, I'm gonna bring it to a boil about 10 minutes or so because it's very flavorful. If I was making this from scratch, like making my stock, I will let it go for about 1.5 hours until it reduces by half. But since I already started with a shrimp broth, it's already flavorful, so I don't want to cook it too long. I don't have to since it's already a lot of flavor in there. But if I was making this from like scratch, I will let it go like, probably 1.5 hours until it gets reduced by half.
Thank you.
And also, when you're making your stock, if you have one of this blender, you want to puree the shells and everything in the pot. That way, you get a lot of flavor. Then you strain it to a fine chinois. But that's how we do it. I use one of these little stick blenders at home to puree the shrimp heads, and it brings a lot of flavor. And then you strain it to real fine colander, so you don't have any shells in there. But that's how you really bring out all the flavor of the shells. My roux is almost done here, a few more minutes.
How do you know when the roux's done?
Well, you can tell by the color. You don't want to, when it's nice and like a brown, light brown, it's done. You can make, dark brown, really dark. Just depends, how much color you want to put it to have in the roux. But if you want to have a brown roux, about 5-7 minutes all it takes. If you were making like a brown sauce, you want to let it go longer because you want to have a nice and brown roux to also, enhance the color of the sauce too. And you can tell too by the smell. Once it starts to get like a little butter smell, and you don't smell like the raw flour, it's a sign that it's getting ready too. Okay, I'm gonna shut it off here. Side here. Now I'm gonna turn this up a little. Keep in mind, if you have like a gas stove, it's gonna be much quicker. It should be boiling by now, but since we use induction heat, it takes a little longer. And you can smell like the herbs, like the tarragon. It's nice and licorice, so you can get a nice aroma from that too right now. I'm gonna try to puree this right now here. Okay. See if this little stick blender works for this. Working. Sometimes we use a bigger blender when we use in the restaurant. I got bigger one at home that's gonna really puree the shells, but you can use a regular blender. It works really good, but it takes a little longer to scoop them out and then put them back. And I'm gonna try to get as much as I can here with this little stick blender. Okay. There's some shells still in there, but as you can see, it's not very powerful, and those shells are kind of hard, so you really need a bigger one. I might need to add some salt too. I gotta add some cream as well. But it's got a real nice, rich flavor here. I'm also gonna heat up some cream that I need to put in there. I'm gonna let it go for a little more here. Then we'll add the cream, then we'll add the roux to thicken up the bisque at the end. And if you make this day before, it's even better because all the flavors will come together. As you know, it's always gonna taste much better than the following day. And I'm using about 1 quart of cream. And I had about 3 quarts of stock to make this soup, but you can always change the recipe. I'm gonna have the recipe along with the video, so you guys can, if you want to do this at home, you can follow that. It's really easy, to be honest with you. As you can see, it takes the longest to make the stock, because you gotta let it go for an hour and a half. But then to make the actual bisque. It's not that hard, as you can see.
Will you attach the shrimp stock with that recipe?
Oh yes, I will. As you can see, the shell is kind of broke down a little bit. It's a bunch of little pieces. And then I'm gonna use my real fine chinois that I have to strain this at the end. That way you don't have any shells in there. You can use some cheesecloth if you don't have one of this. Put like a cheesecloth and a regular strainer, and it's gonna work too. A little white pepper here. Got a little cayenne pepper. A little salt. Now as clean as you go. That way at the end, it won't take too long to clean up your kitchen. As soon as my cream is ready here, I'm gonna add it to my bisque here. And I got some shrimp I'm gonna cook to garnish my bisque at the end. If you wanna put them in there in the soup, that's fine. But I normally we just garnish with some shrimp, saute some shrimp with some salt, pepper, and then you just garnish your bisque with some shrimp pieces at the end. Yes, what was the question there? Can you repeat your question, please? I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
If you were referring to me, Chef, I was going to ask in reference to the shrimp bisque comparison to the lobster bisque. I'm noticing that the color is a little bit different, and I know that whenever you do your roux, the blondes are usually for thickening, and then as you go and you get darker, it gets into the amber, more chocolate colors. So, but then the thickening power is lost in the bisque or in whatever it is you're trying to thicken as a sauce or whatsoever. So would one be able to actually make the shrimp bisque a different color, or is that the traditional color that you would want your shrimp bisque to be?
Well, this is going to be a traditional color. I mean, you can cut down on the tomato paste because, as you know, a lot of the color comes from some of the tomato paste and also from the shells. You see how when the shrimp cooks, it turns a little pinkish, but also you're going to get a lot of color from the tomato paste that we add in there. And you can also thicken up this bisque with some, remember in the beginning I told you can use rice to thicken up the bisque. You don't have to use roux, but you know, if you use rice, it's going to take a little longer to simmer. You want the rice to cook really fully, and then you're going to puree that to get your bisque thickened, so you don't have to worry about the roux. But you can also use rice because rice has a lot of starch, and you can use it as a thickening agent as well.
Okay. And it won't affect the texture of the bisque?
Oh, no, it won't. It's going to be nice and silky, very smooth as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Chef.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, now my cream is ready. I'm going to add it in there now. Okay. Now you see this little color is not as red as it used to be because, you know, we added the cream.
Why do you heat the cream up first?
Well, that way you don't have to wait too long for the stock to come up to temperature, and then you can, you know, thicken it up right away. Now I'm going to start to add my roux in there. Normally I would let it cool down, but since we're in the crunching time, you normally want to add cold roux to hot liquid, but I tried to let it cool down as much as I could because I wanted to show you guys how to do the roux. But normally you want to let it go a little more so it cools down much more. Okay. Now I'm going to take this out of here so it's not in my way when I'm. You want to be careful when you add in the roux. You don't want to all of it all at once because it's going to gradually start to thicken up. If you put too much, then you might need to go back and add some more cream because this shouldn't be very thick.
Why is it called a bisque and not just soup?
Because the bisque, it's done with shellfish stock, and also it's not as heavy. It's a soup that you do like a cream soup. Normally it's much more heavy, more thicker than a bisque. And now you can see it's starting to get thick now.
And why did you want the roux to be cooler than hot? What's the difference there?
That way, when you put it in there, it's gonna really separate when the hits the hot stock. It's gonna because this one's remember it's butter and it's got fat and flour. So when it hits the hot stock, it's gonna just separate. As you can see, it's starting to get nice and thick. Very shiny, very smooth. Obviously, it's not smooth right now because there's a lot of shells, but once I strain this and pass it through a fine strainer, it's going to be very silky.
What size pot is that?
This, I think it's 5 quarts. Okay, I'm going to let it keep going here. See, it's nice and smooth. More.
So when you're making a gravy, is that rule for the roux to cool it down first the same?
Yes, yes. So you can see the color already changed. It's not as red as it was when I just had the stock because we had the cream, remember, and it's gonna change a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna bring my pot over here because I'm gonna strain some of this in a little bit here. In the meantime, I'm gonna cook some shrimp here to garnish our soup. Look at that, it's nice. I'll taste it again. Make sure there don't need any more salt, any more pepper. Pretty good. I'm going to put some Old Bay seasoning in the shrimp, but you can use salt and pepper if you want as well. Remember, we're cooking seafood, it's very delicate. You want to not overcook, especially the shrimp. As you know, seafood is one of the most delicate proteins. They don't have a lot of connective tissue, so it's going to cook really quick. And especially the shrimp, if you overcook shrimp, it's going to be rubbery and it won't. It's going to be dry. So once it starts to get nice and pink, I'm sure you probably done your shrimp assignment already, and you already know how to do this. But just for future reference. I'm going to start to strain some of this so I can also going to add a little sherry to my shrimp here. Okay, I'm going to shut them off here now. I'm going to go back to strain my bisque. As you can see, a lot of the shells are broke down. There's very tiny pieces, but I could have gone a little more, but my stick blender is not as powerful, so I kind of did as much as I could there. As you can see, it's not very thick, very smooth, very silky. It's very rich, a lot of flavor in the shells. Okay. I just want to rinse my ladle because I want to pour some of this soup in the bowl so you guys can see what's like texture like. Look at this. You guys can see it's not very thick, it's very shiny, very silky. Now we're ready to plate our. You know what? I'm gonna chop some of the shrimp. That way they're not big pieces for the garnishes. This back second here. Okay. Now I'm gonna put some of this nice little bowl area here. You can see it, the texture, very smooth. Look at that. Now we're gonna add some of the shrimp pieces here. Put a nice little garnish I got here. Got some fresh dill here. Chives too. So what do you guys think? Very easy, right?
It's delicious.
And there you go. Very simple, very easy, and very tasty as well. So thank you for being here this morning. You guys have any other questions before we wrap this up?
Thanks, Chef.
Well, thank you so much for being here this morning. I'm looking forward to see you guys the next couple of weeks from today.
Thanks, Chef.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chef.
Thank you. Have a nice day, everybody.